maybe someday you're gonna learn. We rise the Solomon, Chronicle show, yeah. We bless Yahweh for the show, so tune in. Every week on Rosalind Solomon's YouTube channel and the Prophetic Life Advice Show channel and Prophetic Mental Facebook. Enjoy, enjoy, God bless, enjoy, God bless, enjoy, God bless. How's everybody doing? Welcome to the Rosalind Solomon Chronicle Show. And this is your host, Apostle Rosalind Solomon, for Rosalind Solomon's YouTube channel, Prophetic Life Advice Show, and Prophetic Mantle, and Rosalind Solomon Facebook. Welcome! Okay, this is going to be a short one. Mama busy. So mama gonna make it short. All right, so this is a different kind of chronicle. So, because sometimes I'm going to be telling you stuff about people you may have never heard of that was famous in history. There was a name, you can Google him. There was a man named Max Robinson. He's no longer with us. His name was Max Robinson. He was the first Black anchor news person on this planet. Right? So he went through a lot of turmoil and he went through many media channels, right? And he finally landed a good job. His first anchor job, he went on an interview and there were like 20 white guys, he said, and he was the only one. And they knocked it down to 5 people. And when they called his name, he was shocked. And he was the one that they hired. So he was the first Black anchor. But the problem was when he went on to do his anchor show, they would cover his face, cover him, period. So they couldn't distinguish if he was Black or white because he was so intellectual. He spoke so properly. They couldn't tell if he was Black or white because, back in that days, only white people could speak properly. I remember back in the day, people used to think I was white. I'm like, why? I was like, Black people speak appropriate as well, So, but I don't go through that no more. Praise God. So they covered him, right? So you couldn't see his face, but all you could do is hear his voice. He got angry about that because he was very for his people. He did a lot for his people. He couldn't stand racism, and he stuck up for his Black people, brown people, right? So he went to the manager and told him, he said, I'm tired of this. I want you to show my face. This is racism. And then the next day they fired him. No, what happened was the next day they did show his face. But then white people was complaining and calling the news station saying, why is the Black man that has never done before giving us news? We don't like this. Get rid of him. So the next day he was fired, right? So he went on to go to 2 or 3 other media things, and he went through the same thing. He clashed because of racism. He spoke about racism a lot and they didn't like it. Right. He eventually went on to win awards and awards on documentaries. He was one of the newsmen that did the Vietnam War, and he was there when Martin Luther King was murdered. He was the anchorman for that in Washington, where he worked before 1973. Now, he used to, drink a lot because he didn't like the racism him and his people was going through, right? So his dad died in 1977, and he became like an alcoholic. But then he got himself together, and he became a freelancer, news anchor. No, a freelancer. And there was this big kidnapping by this, what was the name of the group? I thought I wrote the name of the group down. Okay, well, there was the Nafi movement. They had kidnapped 150 people. And they said that Max Robinson was the only one they wanted to talk to. So he talked to them and he convinced them to surrender. So only 2 people got killed and 3 got hurt out of 150 people. So he convinced them to surrender. And they did. And because of that, ABC was very interested in him. And he was the first Black news anchor on a national level broadcast in Chicago, which was ABC. He liked to help his Black people a lot. He was the NABI founder of, it's called the Black National American Journalist Membership. He was the founder of that. I think it might still be out here. He had issues with the owners and stuff of ABC because the owner of ABC did not like how Max Robinson talked a lot about racism and how he wanted change. So his relationship with ABC was hurt. They demoted him. And then in 1983, he did not show up for a co-anchor funeral because he was supposed to sit next to Nancy Reagan to talk with her, and he did not show up. So ABC fired him. So then he went to another news place in Chicago, which he left in 1985. So he became a freelancer again. So in 1986, his third marriage ended. He became a alcoholic, and then he found out he had got AIDS, and it wasn't because he was gay or because he did drugs. It's because he slept around a lot. That's why he couldn't stay married. He slept around with a lot of different women, and that's how he got AIDS, right? So in the end, his son took care of him, and they wanted him to be a spokesperson for AIDS, but he didn't want to do that. But just before he died, a week before he died, he went to some famous college and spoke to the youth and told them don't make his mistakes, sleeping around, unprotected, and stuff like that. And a week later, he succumbed to his disease, right? Complications of his disease, and he was 49 years old. But he died in 1988, December 20th. And he was a highly activist for his people. He cared a lot about them. If people was hungry, he would feed them. If they needed housing, he would help them. If they needed money, he would raise money for them. And he was like an advocate about fighting against racism, and his career could have went further if he didn't try to help the Black people and bring racism to the forefront, because they didn't like that. So he could have went further, and if he didn't sleep around a lot, his marriages probably his first or second marriage would have probably lasted him, right? And he wouldn't have had AIDS, and he would have lived longer, but he was for his people, and he suffered that in his career, and he didn't seem to care. He was a very intelligent man, very smart man, right? Hold on, I'm sorry. He was a very smart man, one of the smartest of his kind at that time, and the white people were intrigued with him because of his intellect and his education. Back then, if you do your research, there were many educated people like him at the time, when he was around, but they didn't get the opportunities like him, and he even worked as a producer behind the scenes. He did a lot, so there were a lot of educated people like him back then, but they didn't get the opportunity like him. And he stood out for some reason. And I believe God was shining on him too, but he messed up, he couldn't keep his zipper up, so the women was his downfall, and him catching AIDS from women, so see, you just don't catch AIDS from drugs and being gay. You can catch it from anybody, because you don't know their lifestyles. So this is a Chronicle history about Max Robinson. A lot of people don't know he was the first Black anchor, period. Locally wise, he even was up there with the guy that was on 2020 that died. It was him and the other guy. And they were three different anchors in three different places. He wanted to go to DC, but they put the white man there instead, left him in Chicago. Who was that white man name on ABC News anchor? He was there for a long time, and he died Oh my goodness, I cannot think of his name. But y'all know who he is. So Max Robinson was a giant in the media, and he was the first Black person to ever be on the media. And this is your Chronicles for today. And God bless y'all. I know it's Thursday, but I wanted to do it early because, you know, I got to do some stuff, right? So thank you for taking your time to listening. I'm coming back with a word too for this channel and the other channel. All right. So shalom. God bless you.
Chronicle Show, Season 1, where you're gonna learn history. You're gonna learn history every Friday or Saturday, or maybe someday you're gonna learn where rising sun is. Chronicle Show, yeah, we bless Yahweh for the show, so tune in every week on Rosalind Solomon's YouTube channel and the Prophetic channel and Prophetic on Facebook. Enjoy, God bless. Enjoy, God bless. Enjoy, God bless. Enjoy, God bless.